No time to lose! I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
Everyone remembers their firsts, right? You remember your first day of school, your first taste of your favorite food, your first Pokemon card, your first fictitious furry crush is? And I hope that everyone remembers their first video game. That's what Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue is to me. My first video game. For my first home console, the Sony PS1, back when I was 6 years old. And now, 21 years later, my job is to explain to you what I think of this licensed platformer, and whether or not my childhood magnified my enjoyment of this game and shredded its flaws.
I protect the galaxy from the threat of invasion from the evil Emperor Zurg, sworn enemy of the Galactic Alliance.
Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue was released on November 1999 for PS1, as well as the Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Color, and for the sake of this review, I'm reviewing the PS1 version of Toy Story 2, because, to put it bluntly, the Nintendo 64 version lacks content, and the Game Boy Color version is... Anyway, Toy Story 2 is an action platformer game developed by Traveler's Tales and published by Activision and Disney Interactive. The plot of this game, as is the case with many licensed video games, is more or less comparable to the movie it ties in with. That's one reason why the PS1 version is superior. It has FMV cutscenes straight from the movie, but these are outdated to Disney Plus subscribers, and I'm pretty sure that the cutscenes are ripped straight from a rough draft version of the film. I'd play them, but I'm not reviewing the movie, and I don't want the copyright claim. But I will play this one, just because the sheer age and scratches of my disc led to one notable moment when viewing one cutscene. Phew, thank God the gameplay didn't get corrupt.
I have a laser, and I will use it.
Buzz Lightyear as a toy is known for his laser and karate chop action. In the movie, particularly the Space Ranger spin-off cartoon, and in the opening of Toy Story 2, Buzz Lightyear is known for flying. In the game, he can do similar things. Buzz's arsenal of moves is pretty basic, but adequate for the time and for the game. He can double jump, shoot lasers, shoot charged lasers, go into first-person mode, spin, and stomp. And in this game, all of those abilities are utilized properly, though not always creatively. Alongside that, there are power-ups that you can unlock and pick up to give you a temporary boost or ability. These include green lasers, which turn your laser into a machine gun of yellow lasers, a cosmic shield that temporarily makes you invincible at the price of limiting your options, rocket boots, hover boots, a disc launcher, and a grappling hook. All pretty self-explanatory and necessary to help you collect all 50 Pizza Planet tokens and beat the bosses in this game. Pizza Planet. They're the Chuck E. Cheese of Toy Story. It'd be ironic if Pixar ever made a movie showing them going bankrupt.
Play with this, you toy!
The 6-year-old me wouldn't care about the graphics, mostly because the most technically impressive game at the time was probably The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a game that I wouldn't truly appreciate until the 3DS remake. The 27-year-old me would also not care about the graphics, but I still need to be critical. The graphics have aged about as well as an unpackaged action figure that belongs to a child. A slow and inevitable aging, mind you, not like a Rainbow Dash figure in a jar. But if you ignore that, you see some rather creative recreations of certain scenes shown in Toy Story 2, most notably Andy's house, Al's penthouse, and the elevator leading up to it. I don't know who's keen on exploring these areas in 2020, but I do know that there are Minecraft recreations of this game, so there is a cult following.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command.
If video game music aged as poorly as video game graphics, then we wouldn't appreciate it as much as we do. In other words, this game has a remarkably impressive soundtrack, even for a licensed video game, composed by Andy Blythe and Martin Josra, who actually also composed the video game soundtrack for the next video game I plan on reviewing, are known for composing jazz and other works, and while there is some of that here, there is also a wealth of other musical styles and substances that are lovingly sprinkled across each level. Al's penthouse has a western feel, Al's Spaceland feigns Space Odyssey, Al's Toy Barn goes Country Hoedown. Jesus, 3 levels belong to Al. In short, there's a single genre of music style for each level, and just about every single track magnifies the level or zone that you're currently playing in.
there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Just watch Toy Story 2 on Disney Plus for the story. It's about as important to the video game as an instruction manual to a ragdoll with a pull string.
That is no way to treat a collectible.
As I stated earlier, there are a grand total of 50 Pizza Planet tokens to collect. Every 3 levels appears to correspond to a particular theme: Andy's home, outskirts, toy store, apartment complex, and airport. Every 3rd level is an exclusive boss battle, meaning that the other 10 levels out of the total of 15 have 5 Pizza Planet tokens to acquire. How do you acquire these Pizza Planet tokens? You basically do the same 5 things in each level. You collect 50 coins, find 5 characters, do a challenge, complete a puzzle, and defeat a mini-boss. It's not as difficult as it seems overall. Destroying enemies produces a coin that you must pick up, or else it'll permanently disappear. You'll hear and then see the missing 5 characters. With enough exploration of the level, the challenges are usually a race or a timed retrieval of 5 items. Puzzles are relatively simple to do, and the bosses basically consist of shooting them enough times until they topple over or explode. Unless it's one of those enemies that are immune to lasers and you have to bitch slap them to death with your wings. How are the levels themselves? Well, ignoring the 5 boss levels, the remaining 10 levels are adequately designed for the time. Given that you're not playing as a human, but as a toy, the levels naturally appear larger than life. Lawnmowers are hazards, trees feel like mountains, elevator vents can pass for claustrophobic tunnels, and fire is... well, it's still fire. It'll melt you like an alternate ending to Toy Story 3. Ranking all 15 levels of this game is comparable to getting a 99% on an exam, when another student got a 99.1%. Truth be told, I personally enjoyed each and every single level in this game. Even though I'm well aware that there are favorites and bête noirs among fans of this game, it wouldn't exactly be practical of sorting these levels from worst to best, when it's all quite subjective. So instead, I'll just say what I like and dislike about each level as I describe them. This introductory stage feels like an introduction in Andy's room, and then lets you open up your helmet everywhere else. It explains game mechanics that will appear throughout the game, more and less in some levels. I would advise only going to the basement once because of the repetitive that buzz makes when jumping. A vast open world that is full of enemies on the ground. Make sure that you find the green laser to mow through them, because enemies will always respawn. Ascending fountains, potted plants, and the tree in particular are delightful to climb, with shortcuts appropriately put on them to cushion plausible mistakes. Also, despite not having access to the rocket boots until level 7, it is possible to beat the RC car in a foot race, if you don't get blocked by the sentient Zerg cars. Your first boss stage is actually a fun one. You fight someone's runaway remote-controlled biplane, armed with water bombs and dual machine guns that shoot BB pellets. The only way to destroy this airplane boss is to fight fire with fire and shoot it out of the sky. You can chip away at it, or unload a charge laser as it's gunning towards you if you're quick enough. If you ignore the arguably childish paint color puzzle, and the fact that the wrenches in Slinky's time challenge blend into the background, this stage is rather fun to ascend. The big draw is the building being constructed, with the jackhammer boss requiring the homing disc launcher to defeat. Watch out for hot nails and flying saucer duck UFO enemies, which can easily knock you off. On the upside, the shortcuts are quite forgiving, and interesting to stomp on while rising. If you're aware of the need for the grappling hook to fully explore this stage, then settle for collecting the Pizza Planet token from Slinky or from the balloon and return later. Otherwise, this stage, while it has great music, does introduce several annoyances. A table that a programmer seemingly forgot to make grippable, a Zerg Knight that rushes you and is immune to lasers, but not in this level, a balsa wood plane box that literally takes 20 red lasers to destroy, narrow rails that leave little room for error, electric wires that threaten to send you back down, and a clown boss that mocks you with every collision. Suffice to say, this is my least favorite stage. What the actual fuck is that? Did this boss give kids nightmares? Also, is that a condom in its body? Definitely not, but it looks like one. Oh well, at least you can shoot this boss until it dies. That being said, red lasers seem to be a part of his diet. Luckily, there's a vegan option. A stage with a wealth of personality and unique characteristics. The music is infectiously energetic, and will make you feel like a child going to Toys R Us. Luckily, there are no adults to tell you not to ride the skateboard, or jump on the trampoline, or play with the hula hoops. Also, remember that episode of Ed, Edd n Eddy, where Ed was pissed off and his toy was a flamethrower? Think he bought it from Al's Toy Barn? If so, that's either a lawsuit waiting to happen, or where's the nearest store to buy one myself? This stage does a great job of immersing you into the little zones. When you're in the arcade, you almost want to play the games on screen, which could have easily been black and empty to save on development time. When you're in the ball pit, you shift balls around. When you fight yourself, you feel as if you're on the moon. And when you enter the Buzz vs Zurg laser tag zone, you feel as though you're caught in the crossfire. It's just an oversized enemy that takes more punishment and has 6 vessels filled with enemies you can destroy in any other level. Outside of chasing through the enemies by spinning before their materialization, it's just a filler level. I don't know if this level is particularly liked or not, but I personally love it. Its atmosphere is gripping and memorable with the ominous music and dizzying heights that put every other level before this one to shame. The grappling hook is acquired here and used to adequate effect. The Spider Gunro boss is easily one of the most unsettling bosses in this game. The only drawbacks are that coins are sparse and leave little room for error. Enemies can lurk around the corner. Making your way up to the top of the shaft is slow, and that wind-up mouse over the control panel is a pain to snatch. In the movie, it's never made clear how much money Al was going to get for all of Woody's Roundup merch. I'm betting hundreds of thousands of dollars, all of which would get flooded if the bathroom section was a bit more encompassing. Al's penthouse almost feels like the antithesis to Andy's room, the home of a solitary collector instead of a mother and son. I just hope Al isn't racist towards Mexicans, because he's got a lot of those types of toys lying on the ground. Think Activision would prefer a peaceful protest over the UK potentially banning loot box gambling? Lasers don't work on bosses from here on, until the final battle anyway, and Zurg somehow floats away from you while shooting at you with yellow projectiles, and the occasional green homing ones. If you practice using your wings to kill flying enemies, then Zurg will perish. Just make sure you don't get cocky and fall down the elevator shaft with him. I've actually never traveled via airplane, so I don't know how time-consuming the process is. Nevertheless, this level feels time-consuming, from having to wait for luggage to arrive, to conveyor belts forcing you to walk on the sides, to waiting for wings to tilt and stop bouncing before proceeding across them, to the hover boots requiring some trial and error to work with to maximize altitude. At least moving up is somewhat enjoyable, even if it feels slow-paced. Probably the largest level in the game, and actually one of my favorites. The helicopter light puzzle is one of the few puzzles I remember actually replaying. It's possible to get almost 50 coins without leaving the ground. The blacksmith boss is entirely capable of taking a life if you don't respect his blue shockwave attack, thus making him somewhat challenging. The slime run where you fail if you jump or take damage is the only one of its kind, and it's brilliant to utilize the airplane to get to higher areas. And unlike the level before this one, it feels fast-paced because you're always moving, especially with the rocket boots lying on the ground. Was a 3-on-1 with bosses that you've already defeated before the best way to finish the game? Given the movie's plot and the licensed nature of this game, it's probable that the developers played it safe. You could play it safe by going all the way to the back and picking off each boss individually and in the same order as in the game, or just let loose with the spin attack and burn through a life or two that you've stockpiled. Either way, the finale leaves a lot to be desired.
To infinity and beyond!
To be fair, this game doesn't have as much replayability after you beat the game and collect all 50 Pizza Planet tokens. It's certainly an enjoyable and faithful licensed platformer, but it doesn't change the fact that this game is woefully dated in 2020, and it's a game that you might remember about a few times a year. But that's still perfectly fine, because it's an inevitable truth of video games. The best video games age like wine anyway. After all, I've had this game for 20 plus years, and it shows when the audio cuts out and the cutscenes lag, or even glitch apart. It just means that I've played this game several times, and I probably will several more times. Remember that I said that this was my first video game? At 6 years old, I remember asking my uncle to help me beat the tin robot boss in the first level. Also, I didn't have a memory card until about 6 months after getting a PS1, so my sessions rarely got past level 5. But when I did get to level 6 by doing the bare minimum, I realized that there was a certain number of Pizza Planet tokens to acquire. Also, there's an unusual exploit that you can take advantage of during the boss fights of every third level. Basically, charge your spin attack and trigger the cutscene while spinning. After you stop spinning, you'll still be able to move and shoot, but mostly shoot because the camera usually isn't focused on you. In conclusion, if Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue were one of my Pokemon cards, then it'd probably be my Flygon EX. It's the first EX card I've ever opened, has obviously been played with during my childhood, and I would never part with.
It's okay, look. A lot of people are afraid of bugs. It's not gonna hurt you. But don't be afraid.
No, no! I Chewie. Teacher said it would be more dramatic.